Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast about two guys who watch the most random movies that we can possibly find. Hello, I'm Noah Sadin. With me, as always, is the Jenny to my Vilmer Slaughter, Kyle Mulford.
Hello, and welcome to our corner of the internet.
Our very, very, very small corner.
Very small.
I assume it's like one carpet square worth.
Maybe in a year we'll be slightly bigger.
We'll have two carpet squares.
Yes. Goals. Life goals.
Yes. So, did you get that reference?
I'm not sure I did, but all of your references go over my head and then I feel stupid.
Okay, well, I'll share this one because I like this particular one. Jenny was Renee Zellweger, and Vilmer Slaughter was Matthew McConaughey in Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, which I assume, since it has Next Generation, the title also starred Patrick Stewart.
That'd probably make it better. You know, I think I probably saw that movie once because me and my friend used to do a horror series every New Year's Eve, and one year we did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I can't remember if we got to that or if it would have been out because that came out in the 90s. But, you know, I don't know if we got that far into the series before we gave up on it. So,
as far as horror franchises go, that one has probably fared the worst of stuff from that 70s, 80s era.
I will say, though, there is a line that I use all the time. I can't remember if it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 or 3, but me and my friend use this all the time. It's kind of like death eating a cracker, isn't it?
It sounds like too.
And we have no idea what it means, but we just like to say it. So
that is definitely a thing worth saying. All right, Kyle, what movie do we have today?
We got Frightmare, and not the 1980 something?
83, I believe.
83. No, this is a 1974 British movie. What's your little snowball pitch about this?
Creepy old people and mom eats people again.
That sounds about right. So we started off this movie and all these horror movies, every one of them that we watch for this has started with a title card, the date and the time and the place. We're London, England, February 18th, 1957.
Yeah, I just kind of wish it included like an actual like time of day too.
That would have been great.
Fun.
We've had a couple of those.
That's true.
We are in an amusement park, like an abandoned amusement park. It's black. The beginning of the film is filmed in black and white, and we have this random man go into a trailer. And I don't know why he's there. It's not explained. He just goes in and says something about helping him out, and you don't know with what. And then all of a sudden it shows like things in the trailer, and then he's dead by the door with half of his face looks like eaten off.
I assume it's one of those things where like he was going for a job or something. If I had to guess, like there was like an ad in the paper. It was like, hey, I'm here to help out with this job you needed, running this amusement park that you clearly need employees for.
To run for all of the 0 customers that you have.
That's what happened to Euro Disney, is that it went down the hole and was run by cannibals for a while.
Because we found out that the owners were eating all the children.
As it happens occasionally. I mean, that's why Showbiz Pizza closed.
The animatronics ate all the kids.
Yeah. And I know we're already in tangent town here, but if you look it up on YouTube where someone took a bunch of old animatronics from Showbiz Pizza and then play like famous songs and then has them working, and then it syncs up a lot better than you might think it should.
That is really creepy. Is it like in his basement or something? It's like, hey, kids, come and watch Led Zeppelin.
I don't know, but he picks like the weirdest songs.
Oh, Led Zeppelin sung by a bunch of animatronic animals.
I'm sure weirder things have happened.
Weird things like cannibals in this movie, right? We see the guy dead at the door, and then we cut to the trial. And the husband and wife are sent to a mental institute because they've been killing and eating people, apparently. And then we go to color like Wizard of Oz. And we're in fantasy land.
And
No.
then, just like in Wizard of Oz, the first thing we see is a pair of legs under a house as a girl from Kansas and her dog walk out in 1970s England.
Actually, we see bikers pulling into Flanagan's bar.
Yes.
Which
we should keep track of how many weird bars there are in these movies.
Which I just had a trivia question this past weekend, and I believe Flanagan's is the name of the bar at the end of Cocktail.
You mean that movie where it's like the bartender Tom Cruise that nobody's seen?
Yes.
You watched it, didn't you?
Cocktail?
Yeah.
I have seen it a couple times.
It's one of those movies where like everyone knows about it, but then it sounds stupid, so no one's actually watched it unless your name is Kyle Mulford, apparently.
Apparently. I will claim to be that one guy who saw Cocktail.
Was it any good?
It's fine. I won't go past fine, but did
it make you want to like make yourself a cocktail?
No. But I do enjoy, I will tell you though, sorry, Tangent City. The whole thing is them doing all like the flips with bottles and stuff. And here in North Liberty, we have a bar called Bobber's Grill up on the lake.
And Tom Cruise is the bartender.
Close. We do have a couple of guys who actually train in Vegas to do the bottle flipping and stuff, and they will come and do it on the weekends at Bobber's. And it's pretty entertaining to watch. Just to go up and watch people order drinks and have them flipping the bottles around, flipping the cups around, and catching peanuts in their mouth and stuff.
See, now I imagine it's just like a hibachi grill, but they still have like the cutlery as a hibachi grill, but it's just with bottles and stuff. I like hibachi grills.
Yeah, those are cool. Well,
what movie are we talking about again?
I don't know. This Flanagan's bar didn't have Tom Cruise as a bartender. He had some other old dude who
and he was not a hibachi chef.
He was not a hibachi chef, and he didn't flip bottles around. This is a boring bar. But we've got this blonde girl with a bunch of bikers going in, and she wants to go grab a beer from the bar, and he won't serve her because he's like, "You're underage," which she actually is. But she goes over to her friends and says, "He called me a tart." Just so we can start some shit.
I love weird British insults because they mean nothing. Like saying like the phrase "bloody hell." I think it's supposed to be like taking someone's like Mary's name in vain or something. Anyway.
Well, isn't using the term bloody like, oh, that's bloody disgusting? Isn't that the same as using like, that's fucking disgusting here? We're just more vulgar about our swearing.
I guess so.
But I mean, I'm sure.
When I think of using bloody, I just think of Ron saying stuff from Harry Potter.
Over there, they call her they used a tart. That's your insult. I'm sure we could probably come up with something a little more vulgar than that in the U.S.
It means the same things. I know, kind of like how there's probably like classism is a bigger thing in Europe than it is here.
Yeah. So they start some shit with the bartender.
And then they toast their Pop-Tarts?
Yes. Pop that tart.
I like Pop-Tarts, even though they're terrible. Objectively speaking, a Pop-Tart is terrible.
Speaking of Pop-Tarts, is that what they were having at the dinner party scene that we, then all of a sudden cut to? Which they do a lot in this movie. They just cut to another scene. They're really bad transitions in this movie.
Well, sometimes it works, sometimes it not. I mean, a lot of times, sometimes you could use just a nice dissolve, or you can kind of do the George Lucas thing where he does a nice wipe, and then as the music swells or whatever.
Like Spaceballs, nice dissolve. I didn't mean like the way they cut. I just felt like the scenes like cut from one to the other. Like it felt like it's just like mid scene.
It felt kind of disjointed.
Yeah, it was very disjointed.
Because a lot of times, in a good movie, they have like each scene has a distinct meaning, begin and end, and it's sort of and when you have multiple stories going at the same time, just as one scene is about to reach a peak, but it's still sort of the end of the part, and you cut to the other scene.
Yeah, and I felt like the timing was just off on, some of these cuts in this movie, because there was a lot of times I wasn't even sure what was going on in some of these scenes. But we go back, well, we have a dinner party scene, and we don't really know who these characters are yet. We just see this bar scene, and we're like, who are we supposed to follow? I think it's the girl because she's the one making a big deal. And then we cut to a dinner scene, and there's like 4 people there. And then we cut back to the punks, the motorcycle punks, beating up the bartender in the alleyway and riding off. And then we're back to the dinner party again.
Yeah, what a jerk. It's just the bartender.
And then this is finally, after we cut to the bar, to the dinner party, to the bar, to the dinner party, then we finally find out that the 2 girls in the 2 scenes are sisters, or half-sisters.
Yeah, they're like Debbie and Jenny, I guess?
Jackie, right?
Jackie.
Yes, Jackie and Debbie.
Yes.
And played by Deborah Fairfax and Kim Butcher, if you know them.
And was Debbie was the younger one, right?
Yeah, she was the young blonde.
So what you're saying is she could potentially be referred to as Little Debbie?
Yes. Where's the green filling?
Henceforth, she shall be known as Little Debbie.
She shall be Little Debbie. And Jackie will, I guess, just be Jackie.
Jackie, I guess.
Okay. Oh, Jackie. So we find out they're sisters, and they say something about the parents being dead. Because you actually don't know that they're only half-sisters at this point. That's why, things get slowly revealed in this movie, which was a problem because it was like, some of this stuff I was like, could you just tell me that in the beginning? I don't think it needed to be a secret that they were half-sisters. It kind of had something to do with the overall story, but it still could have been revealed earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily the crux of the storyline. And sometimes if you're trying to go for like a super fun, twisty thriller, where everything's like, aha, we throw a twist, and then we throw another twist, and then we throw in like 5 more twists just because we can.
They're only half-sisters.
Ha 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 ha.
Well,
they're not, Luke and Leia aren't actually siblings, so that one kiss we did is totally not awkward in retrospect. So was Leia from the same parents.
Too true. Too true. So during the dinner party, they're trying to hook up Jackie with this guy, Graham, who is a psychiatrist. And then the cops come in the morning and question Debbie because they find out she was there, or the bartender went to the cops and said, oh, these people were here and somehow knew Debbie. And so then Debbie meets with Graham, the older sister's new boyfriend, and he tries to, he talks to her because he's a psychiatrist and he's trying to help her out. And then we cut to Dorothy Yates, played by Sheila Keith, and she is the lady who was killing in the beginning of the movie.
The woman from the beginning of the film.
Which we don't actually see them at the beginning.
Yes.
And she's drilling someone's face off.
As you do.
And then we cut back to Graham arguing with Jackie.
And I guess we're done with that scene. So, all right.
It really was. It was just kind of, we go to her, and I think that was the scene where we just kind of go, and she's drilling some guy's face. And then Graham and Jackie are arguing about something. I think the fact that he's trying to help out with all this stuff or whatever.
And so one kind of the setup to make this mom kind of creepy is that it seems like Jackie goes to visit her and refers to her as mom. She go visit her parents, mom and dad, just like at weird times of night.
Yeah.
I think. And so including this, so there's a little bit of setup there before we see the face drilling. Overall, I mean, Sheila Keith, I think, does a good job. She is kind of sufficiently creepy every time she appears on screen.
Actually, her and Rupert Davies, who plays her husband, Edmund, I actually really like both of their performances. Because he is playing in this movie, he's complacent because he loves his wife. And
he'd be complicit.
Yes, I had the right. I don't know what I'm saying. But he does this because he loves his wife, so he pretends to also be crazy so that he can go to the mental institution with her. And he just kind of goes along with it, even though she's the crazy one and killing people. So it's really weird that he's just going to go along with it, but it's because he loves her so much. And you can see and the way he acts it is just kind of, he seems almost sympathetic.
Yeah, it is interesting.
And she actually does a good job because when she talks to the two daughters throughout the movie, and talking to her husband, she has a different persona she uses with each because it's like, oh, now I'm killing. Oh, now I'm going to talk sweetly to my daughter. She goes back and forth between the personas really well.
Yeah.
So then after we see all of that and Debbie, we go back to Debbie and she's showing one of her biker friends the dead bartender in her trunk. and what she said something about how he was killed, and I don't remember what it was, but it was completely like, and he's like, that's not right, because he looked at the bartender, and it's the guy who was being drilled. So
yeah,
it's got like a drill hole through his eye or something like that. So Jackie finds out about the dead bartender somehow, and then talks to the police. So Debbie runs away.
Yep.
And we find out Debbie and Jackie are having like issues because Debbie wants to go out, but then Jackie always wants her home by like earlier in the evening, and so she can go out. And then we find out it's because she's going to give
mysterious packages
of meat to her parents.
Yep.
Who she says to her sister is dead. So she's sneaking behind her sister's back. And
nudge, wink, wink.
And we find out that she's been taking meat there to try and trick her, because the mom is actually Jackie's stepmom, trying to trick her into thinking that she's killing for her so that she can keep eating people.
Yeah.
This doesn't taste like Soylent Green.
Tastes like beef.
And
is this the same little old lady from the old Where's the Beef commercials?
I'm not alive anymore.
Either way, that would definitely be a twist.
Although this was made in 1974, so I guess that doesn't.
Yeah, it could be. We don't know.
Where's the beef? So we find out that she's been taking butcher's meat to the mom. And then we find out that Debbie has been sneaking off and working with her crazy mom. And then her boyfriend comes in, finds dead bodies in the barn.
Whoops.
Because they go up to see the mom. The mom.
Is it the bartender? Did they find the bartender's body? Or?
No, that was in her trunk, remember?
Whose trunk? Was it Debbie's?
Debbie's trunk.
Yeah, so does that mean Debbie would go take the body to her parents then?
I think that she's been killing for her mom.
Okay.
And I think, that's where it was like.
It's not Jackie. Jackie was the one who was giving them regular meat?
Yeah, because she didn't think the mom was killing anymore. And then you find out that like she has been telling Debbie that both the lady and her husband are the parents of Debbie, but only the man is the father of Jackie from a previous marriage.
Okay.
So Jackie has been trying to keep it secret from Debbie and saying that her parents are dead. But then we find out that they got out of the mental institute because of good behavior or something.
I guess, whatever.
And then we find out that Debbie knew all along, and she's been like helping get people there to kill and have her mom eat.
So spoilers, I guess?
Yeah.
Maybe this movie needs like a Dr. Loomis. For 7 years I tried to understand her.
She's evil.
And then for 84 years I tried to put them away. Inside her eyes I saw nothing. The devil's eyes. Holy Donald Pleasance was in this movie.
Pure evil. Yeah, well, and the other way that the mom gets kills is she has like a tarot reading service. So you come in and get your fortune read, and then you get killed.
As you do.
So, she draws the death card every time.
Every card.
I see death in your near future. Oh, look at that. Stabby, stabby, stabby. Next.
Don't they kill a guy with a pitchfork?
The boyfriend. When he finds all the dead bodies, like he turns around and Debbie and the mom are up there, and he's like trying to get out, and they're stabbing him with a pitchfork. This is weird. Then Graham, the new psychiatrist boyfriend, he goes, "I'm going to find out what's going on with your mom and dad," to Jackie, and he goes looking for a tarot reading.
And then he probably ends up dead?
I believe so, because then Debbie calls Jackie and tells her to come to the farm. and Jackie goes, and then that's when Jackie goes, and she goes into the room and she sees both Debbie and the mom drilling the guy's face.
Oh,
and then
no.
and then the dad's in the corner and he just looks on and freeze frame.
Okay, so in my notes here, I don't know where this part comes in the movie. I just wrote this line down. I'm freezing me bollocks off out here.
I don't know either. It could have been anywhere in the movie because this movie just cuts back and forth to things all the time.
I don't find it that memorable, honestly.
The movie itself or that line?
Maybe the movie itself, but so we had to push back this recording a few weeks. So I saw this movie like a month ago from when we're recording.
Yeah, so if you didn't hear a lot from Noah and it was me, because I watched it a couple of days ago and it was all my fault because I had to push back a couple of days for family stuff. So he hasn't seen it in a couple of weeks. So
and even when I was watching it, I didn't remember much like the next day.
It really is. There are like I said, the performances from Rupert Davies and Sheila Keith are actually pretty good.
And it is fun to see a horror movie from starring like an older couple.
Yeah.
Because what's nice about horror films and other genre films in general, you can start franchises based off of sort of I guess quote unquote non-traditional movie stars. I think one example of an actor who's had a very great career is Doug Jones, who was probably most recently, he was even in The Shape of Water with Guillermo del Toro, and he's worked with a lot of different directors, always in a lot of weird kind of makeup and costumes because he's a very tall, very skinny gentleman. And so he always does stuff in a lot of makeup and plays a lot of monsters, but does a really good job.
Yeah, he's a go-to guy, especially for del Toro. But this one was, I agree, it was just kind of forgettable. A couple of good performances, but the fact that the cutting was like so, I couldn't follow the story real well. Like all of a sudden going, oh, they're half sisters, and it wasn't like that's a cool twist. It was like a realization. Oh, that's what's going on. So I had that a few times watching this movie. So I feel like either it's all on me or there's something a little bad with the cutting and the way the story was told. So, I mean, it could be a little bit of both. Maybe I just wasn't following it well. But a little bit about this movie, since that was kind of a short one because it wasn't the greatest movie. This was directed by a guy named Pete Walker. And this movie was also known as Cover Up and Once Upon a Frightmare. And if you look it up on IMDb, it's called Cover Up. And I kind of like that title a little better. It fits a little better.
Yeah, Frightmare is like nightmare, so you think it'd be a bit more surreal.
Yeah, and it gives it like more of I think it's just more for the shock value of it because this guy wanted to just do things that would shock you in his movies. This is his most well-known movie, actually, if that's saying anything about his career. But he started off in like 8mm porn films and then going into like soft porn films. And he found that was getting repetitive. So he decided to move into horror movies, which he liked to call terror films. And the thing about this is in the 70s, at the time in the 70s in Britain, horror films were all gothic. So he was actually bucking the trend of what was going on over there because they had Hammer films, where it's all the Dracula, the Peter Cushing and
Christopher Lee.
Yeah. And Christopher Lee and all the Dracula and Frankenstein movies and all that stuff.
And the Mummy.
Well, that was kind of the horror film go-to, the trend that was going on there. And he decided to put this in contemporary middle-class Britain to make it a little more shocking and like more relatable and, like a little more frightening.
A little more, I guess, realistic.
Yeah. And putting more of a real spin to his horror movies, which
that's cool.
Which you wonder how it actually played in the 70s. This could have played pretty well over there in the 70s, actually, for being a little different.
But it definitely feels like a lower budget kind of like grindhouse film.
Yeah. Well, he had his own production company, so he only made one movie in the early 80s called The House Along Shadows from like 1983. It actually had Peter Cushing and and a few other notable actors, and that was the only movie he made for a studio.
Interesting.
And after that, he quit filmmaking and went into property development.
Yeah.
So
I hope he did well.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he is still working in there. So, but yeah, it's an interesting time, like capsule, just because of the fact that he was doing something a little different at the time. But when you relate it to today and then look back, it seems a little generic and blah.
Would you recommend this film?
I don't know if I would, unless you're into like the history of what was going on in 70s horror in Britain. Like if you're like a big British film fan and want to learn more about the history, I think actually maybe this director would be someone to check out.
Yeah.
And this is, like I said, his most famous movie. So
I think the biggest issue for me, at least, is that unfortunately, just because of the subject matter with, cannibal families and the year it came out in 1974 and the lower budget, and unfortunately, for at least in my head, it draws parallels to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which came out in 1974.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that's 73 or 74.
It was 74.
Okay. And that, I will tell you, I watched that recently, and that still holds up as a terrifying film.
It's still super scary.
Yes. It's absolutely terrifying, especially the ending of that movie. So, yeah, it kind of probably got lost in the mix there. And it was new, like the cannibal thing. That was about the time those kind of movies were being started, like from the 70s to 80s.
Yeah, I think Cannibal Holocaust was like 1980 or something.
Yeah, because I think I was reading somewhere that like the cannibal movie there were from the 70s to 80s there were more cannibal movies than there were in like the rest of the history of cinema. So
and then of course, cinema's most famous cannibal, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, the Good Doctor, did not make his first appearance in theaters until 1991 with The Silence of the Lambs.
1986 with Manhunter.
Yeah, but the one everyone knows is Silence of the Lambs. So
the one everyone should see because you haven't seen it yet is Michael Mann's Manhunter.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. Very different film from like Jonathan
Demme.
Yeah, the Jonathan Demme's take on similar material.
But Anthony Hopkins' performance is iconic. Brian Cox actually is really good in that movie as Hannibal Lecter.
It's fun. It's a very different take. And also
It's very 80s.
I'd recommend the Hannibal television show with the Mads Mikkelsen.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard a lot of good things.
I think all 3 seasons are on Amazon Prime.
And didn't they culminate in the telling of Red Dragon with the 3rd season?
Yeah, originally, from what I understand, the creator of the show actually had like 6 seasons.
Because he wanted to get all the way through the books, too, with each season. So, and I've heard that like the way they tell Red Dragon is actually pretty good in the 3rd season, too. And so, which actually is the 3rd time that's been on film now. Because there was the Edward Norton movie also in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, also a very good book, Red Dragon. Fantastic.
Yes.
But we're off track again. So, well, that was Frightmare.
And now we move on to our next segment, the sort of double feature segment, where we talk about films that could have sort of covered some of the same things that would make a good double feature, or some films you could watch instead that could cover the same ground in a better sort of way.
So, why don't you start this week? What's your double feature?
I was going to make you start because I still haven't thought of anything.
You haven't thought of anything yet, huh?
I mean, I have one that kind of works, but I just want to make you go yours first.
Okay. You know me, and like, I know some of these movies are schlocky that we watch, but they're kind of bad schlocky. I like fun schlocky and like exploitation and all that kind of movies. So the movie I'm going to recommend is 1964 movie called Spider Baby, or The Maddest Story Ever Told.
But it's a mad world.
No, it's just The Maddest Story Ever Told.
Okay, and I think I did it right. There's 5 Mads, if I remember correctly.
I believe you're correct, yeah. No, this was a 1964 movie directed by Jack Hill, who you might know later in the 70s for Foxy Brown and Coffee. And so he's made like two of like the all-time blaxploitation movies. He made this movie back in '64 called Spider Baby that is about this family. It opens up with a narrator who ends up being a character in the movie. And he's reading about the book that he wrote about the Mary syndrome, Merrye, named after the Mary family.
Is that where they just wish like Merry Christmas to people all year long?
Yes, and that is the movie.
That is the horror film right there.
It is just a Christmas movie. I don't like cannibals. It's just a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
But
a cannibal Christmas movie.
But anyway, it's about a family that like there's this disease that only this family and their descendants have, and it's just passed down through this family. Where the older they get, the more they regress. So they start going back to like almost cavemanish type ways. So there's an older brother and two sisters, and we find out the father is dead, but the older brother is played by Sid Haig, and he is,
of course,
and he barely, I don't even think he talks. I think he just grunts in the movie because he's already full on like just regressed.
But is he in clown makeup?
No. These movies back then in the 60s and 70s, he didn't do the clown makeup yet.
He was not Captain Spaulding.
No, and since the father's dead, they're being taken care of by their chauffeur, played by
Michael Caine.
No, I just drew a blank on his name. Lon Chaney Jr., Mr. Larry Talbot himself.
That's going to be a really, really late film because he died like I think late 60s.
I think this was one of his last films. So he's the caretaker. So we have a well-known exploitation director directing Lon Chaney Jr. and Sid Haig together in a film.
That's a weird combination.
So the girls, like, anybody who comes to this house, they end up getting killed by these girls, and they call it Spider Baby because one of the girls likes to pretend she's a spider and sting her victims with knives. And then we find out later that there's also like some other like cousins or something that regressed, and they're in the basement, like in a hole. And
then they put the lotion on its skin.
Yeah, and then or else they get the hose again. Hey, we're back to Hannibal Lecter. And
can't get away when you're talking about cannibals.
We find out that there's a distant cousin who wants to get in on the inheritance of the Mary family. So he goes there with his lawyer, this really slimy lawyer, and the lawyer gets killed. And
does he get eaten by a T-Rex?
And the lawyer's assistant and the uncle, it's like an uncle, I think.
And then Jeff Goldblum is there too.
Yes.
And he looks like he wears like he's like shirtless in a leather jacket as they escape from a T-Rex.
Yes. But anyway, the craziness ensues in the house. You find out that they also like the ones in the basement are also kind of cannibalish. So this movie, it kind of relates to the other movie because it's like one thing we didn't mention about Frightmare is that they were showing kind of a nature versus nurture thing because the father was the only parent of those two to parent Jackie, and she was more even-tempered and everything, but like the mother was actually the mother of Debbie, and she inherited the craziness of the mother. So it's kind of like they inherited like the craziness, the murderousness, and then also, you know, she's probably going to be a cannibal like her mother. Then this movie is a syndrome that is specific to a family where they pass it down and they regress to like basic, you know, caveman ways and cannibalism and
sure.
So
and they're all on the paleo diet, I guess.
And like I said, Jack Hill directing Lon Chaney Jr. and Sid Haig in a crazy movie about crazy cannibals is a fun movie.
I don't know how to respond to that, but okay. My recommendation, I don't know, this is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to pick it anyway because I really like this movie, and it's kind of British in that it's from New Zealand. I'm going to go with Dead Alive, a.k.a. Brain Dead, from Peter Jackson, I believe, in 1991. And this is Peter Jackson making movies kind of on his own. This is pre-Lord of the Rings. So this is kind of when Peter Jackson was just insane in some of the best sort of way. Because this, for a while, I think it might still hold the record, but it was for being one of the bloodiest zombie movie ever made.
When you get to the end of the movie, that house is just gallons of blood on the walls and the floors. It's insane.
So much fun. There's a scene involving a bunch of zombies and a lawnmower, and that's all I need to say.
Yes, it's fantastic.
It's great because it's a horror movie, but it's also very much a dark comedy because there's these weird slapstick moments where, like, he's trying to run up the stairs. The main character is trying to run up the stairs, but he keeps, like, slipping on the blood as he's trying to get away from one of the zombies.
I had a sick sense of humor back then. I finally recently, I don't even know, why I seek this stuff out, but I do. I finally recently watched Meet the Feebles.
Which is another Peter Jackson movie, which is basically like the hard arm Muppets that you never wanted to see.
If you've seen the Happy Time Murders, like probably Red Band trailer, that makes that look like a G-rated kids movie. So
yeah, Happy Time Murders is one thing, but then when like Peter Jackson is making Meet the Feebles, it's a whole other thing. I don't know how crazy that it is, but there is a scene that's making fun of the deer hunter, which a bunch of like bunnies and a turtle.
Yeah, it is. That movie is batshit crazy
in the best sort of way.
It is. You have to have quite the stomach to actually watch it because there is a rabbit that gets like some sort of disease that he thinks is a sexually transmitted disease, and he starts like rotting away and stuff. And it's really, really bizarre and gross.
These are all puppets.
Yeah, and it is 100% puppet. It's not even Happy Time Murders where there's humans involved. This is 100% puppets.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's something else. But, yeah, Dead Alive might actually be a little more easy to swallow.
It's a bit more conventional than Meet the Feebles.
So, I have yet to watch the other one, Bad Taste.
I haven't seen Bad Taste either. That one's harder to find because it was Peter Jackson's first film that he pretty much made on weekends over like a period of like 3 years or something.
Yeah.
And what's fun about that one is just, first of all, the plot is that aliens are using humans as like meat for fast food. And then that movie's at least infamous, but there's a scene where a house gets blown up with a bazooka, and instead of using like models or any sort of special effects, it was cheaper to buy a house and actually blow it up with a bazooka.
You say it's hard to find, but as of right now, when we're recording this, it's I watched Meet the Feebles either on Tubi TV or Vudu for free, and Bad Taste is on the same one. So check one of those two sources. They're both free sources. So, but that's what they're on right now.
Okay, so there are more tangents in this episode than I think we've had in a while. Was the movie just not that memorable? I mean, Dead Time was memorable. I mean, for the wrong reasons, but it was memorable.
It was very memorable for the wrong. I still remember scenes from Dead Time. It was so bad.
Etched into your memory, burned into your retinas.
It kind of is.
All right, so while Kyle's setting up sort of our spinner wheel here, I guess I'll just start vamping about random things and how there are much better movies. And after a while, Kyle, we've talked about this before we recorded, how you could kind of stand schlock all day, every day.
I can.
And I only have a certain amount of stomach for it before my brain just kind of fizzles out and explodes. So we're going to try something different. We're only going to do this every once in a while. We're still going to do our random spin, pick a random genre like we always do.
The premise of the show stays the same.
But we're just going to adjust the parameters of what we're spinning for. So now this time we're going to pick an action-adventure movie that is 90% or higher on Rotten Tomatoes, so I could at least get something at least good every once in a while, because, you can eat junk food, eventually just going to rot yourself to death. So maybe you want to hopefully something that's a bit more substantial. All right.
Well, and it'll be more accessible to anyone who's listening, because it's like it'll be something that maybe they'll actually want to seek out. Like, unless you really like schlock like I do in bad movies and you like to seek some of that out just to see what's out there, it's kind of like going with just anything on the board. You get stuff that is like, I can't really recommend this. So then you go on tangents with other stuff. So I think this is a good thing to go to, and we will eventually go back to just occasionally go back to the all out random. But anyway, like he said, we're going to go Action adventure. Rotten Tomatoes score 90% or better. So another thing we could do is see if the critics are full of shit or if it's really good. We've got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Batman Bad Blood.
Maybe now we got Bad Blood.
Bruce Wayne is missing. Well, how do you have Batman then? Alfred covers for him while Nightwing and Robin patrol Gotham City in his stead, and a new player, Batwoman, investigates Batman's disappearance.
So this is one of those DC animated universe movies that they seem to churn out every couple of years. I was hoping it was going to be Batman Ninja.
I haven't seen any of these, so this will be interesting. I am a huge Batman fan, so
as I also like Batman, so
this one you can find on Netflix.
And it's starring Jason O'Mara as Batman, and then Batwing,
it's got
Nightwing, or
Morena Baccarin. Ernie Hudson as Lucius Fox.
It'll be the coolest Lucius Fox ever. The only way he could be cooler is if he was voiced by Billy D. Williams.
Oh, did we forget to mention that Frightmare? We watched that on Amazon Prime.
Because of course it was on Amazon Prime. I am still convinced to this day, and no one can tell me wrong, that how Amazon Prime works is that Jeff Bezos had like a really giant VHS collection from when he bought out like an old Blockbuster, and he just kind of all uploaded onto Amazon Prime.
Well, and I think that they might have like probably every public domain movie too. So they probably just go, oh, it's public domain, throw it on Amazon Prime.
I guess.
This one actually on Netflix. So, and you can also find Spider Baby on Amazon Prime.
Oh, thank goodness.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it.
I am knocking it so hard. Anyway, I think we pretty much run out of things to talk about.
And so
we ran out of things to talk about 20 minutes ago.
To be fair. So anyway, I'm Kyle.
And I'm still Noah.
And until next time, where's the beef?
Where's the beef?